right, we are going to talk about cells and the organelles inside of them. Now, organelles are like teeny tiny little organs, only they're found inside of a cell, and they're what allow the cell to carry out life functions. So as you know, all cells have some common traits. First of all, they are the smallest unit capable of performing life functions. All cells have an outer covering that's called a cell membrane. And inside every cell is this gelatin-like material called cytoplasm, and floating around in the cytoplasm is some genetic or hereditary information, as well as all of the cell organelles. There's two main cell types. There is the prokaryotic cell. This is a cell without membrane-bound structure, so you don't see different organelles in here, as opposed to the eukaryotic cell. Right here, this is the eukaryotic cell with membrane-bound structure. So each of these little things here, they have their own membranes surrounding them, and they are called organelles. The first organelle we're going to talk about is the cell wall. Now, plants, algae, fungi, and most bacteria have this cell wall, and it's this rigid outer covering. It protects and gives shape to the cell. Cell walls are made of cellulose and pectin. The cell membrane, which all cells have, is a protective layer, and it regulates what enters and leaves the cell. Cytoplasm, as we said, is this gel-like substance that is filling the cell, and floating in this cytoplasm are the cytoskeleton, which is a framework, and it helps the cell maintain or change its shape. The cytoskeleton is made up of thin, hollow tubes of protein and thin, solid protein fibers. Within the cytoplasm of eukaryotic cells are structures called organelles. Now, the largest organelle is usually the nucleus, which makes sense because the nucleus has a really important job. It directs all cell activities. And, like all the other organelles, it is separated from the cytoplasm by a membrane. Now, the nucleus contains instructions for everything the cell does. Those instructions are found on strands of DNA. DNA, that's the chemical that contains the code of the cell's structure and activities. Inside the nucleus is another tinier structure called a nucleolus. The mitochondria, you'll often hear that called the powerhouse of the cell, because it's in the mitochondria that cellular respiration releases the energy in food. Mitochondria are organelles where energy is released from breaking down food into carbon dioxide and water. Of course, that carbon dioxide is a waste product that then our body needs to get rid of. Ribosomes. Okay, cells make their own proteins, and the structures that make the proteins are called ribosomes. Some ribosomes can be found floating freely in the cytoplasm. Others are attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. This right here is the endoplasmic reticulum, and it might have, this right here is the endoplasmic reticulum, and it would have all these little ribosomes stuck to it, but some are also freely floating. So ribosomes get their directions on what proteins to make from the hereditary material, from the DNA, and that DNA tells the ribosome when and what order to make protein. The endoplasmic reticulum, it extends all the way from the nucleus to the cell membrane. It's kind of like a superhighway that allows materials to travel around the cell. Golgi bodies, that's this structure right here. Golgi bodies sort proteins and other cellular substances and package them into membrane-bound structures called vesicles. Now, these vesicles are like delivery packages, and they deliver the cellular substance to areas inside the cell. They also carry cellular substances to the cell membrane, where they are released outside of the cell. Lysosomes contain digestive chemicals that help break down food molecules, cell wastes, and worn out cell parts. Now, when a cell dies, that lysosome membrane disintegrates, and it releases digestive chemicals that allow a quick breakdown of the cell's contents. So really, when a cell dies, it digests itself. The vacuole. Cells have a membrane-bound space called vacuoles For the temporary storage of materials, plant cells have much larger vacuoles than animal cells. And that makes sense, right? Because plant cells are making their own food, they need a place to store it. A vacuole can store water, waste products, food, and other cellular materials. And the chloroplast. This is in plant cells only, not animal cells. And food is made in these green organelles that hang out in the cytoplasm. They are again called chloroplasts. They contain the green pigment chlorophyll. Chlorophyll captures light energy and it uses that to make the sugar called glucose. Glucose molecules store the captured light energy as chemical energy. Many cells, including animal cells, do not have chloroplasts for making food and as a result must get their food from their environment.